These last two problems are a factoring challenge, but they're actually not as bad as they look. We are not going to try factoring these with the fractions. Instead, we're going to use the least common denominator to get rid of the fractions. In this first example, the least common denominator is 6, so we're going to go ahead and multiply everything by 6. So 6 times 1/6 is 1, so it gives us x squared minus 3 goes into 6 twice, so 2x equals 3 goes into 6 twice, so 2 times 4 is 8x. Now we need to get everything on one side to get this equal to 0, so we're going to subtract 8x. And this gives us x squared minus 10x equals 0. Now we want to factor this. There are two terms. It's not a difference of squares, but there is something in common, so we can take an x out. That leaves us with x minus 10 equals 0. And set each part equal to 0. The first part would be x equals 0. The second part would be x minus 10 equals 0. So if we add 10 to both sides, we get that our two answers are x equals 0 and x equals 10. Alright, in the part B here, the common denominator is going to be 4, so let's go ahead and multiply everything by 4. So it's going to give us 2 goes into 4 twice, so that 2 times 3 is 6. X squared equals 2 goes into 4 twice, so 2 times 1 is 2. 4 goes into 4 once, so 1 times 1 is 1x. I'm going to want to get everything on one side, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides and subtract x from both sides. Ooh, add x to both sides. Good thing I caught that. That's a negative, so we're going to add x to both sides. So 6x squared plus x minus 2 will equal 0. This is going to be a type of factoring that has coefficient not 1. It's a trinomial coefficient not 1. So I can either use trial and error or grouping. Let's use grouping, because I believe we've used trial and error a couple of times already. So if we're going to use grouping, I'm going to start by multiplying first and last together. So it's going to be negative 12. Now I want that to add to a positive. So I'm going to have one positive, one negative, with the positive being larger. So what goes into 12? There's 2 and 6. So 6 minus 2 is 4. And there's 3 and 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. That one works. The first one didn't. Needed to get 1. So we're going to write this as 6x squared plus 4x minus 3x minus 2 equals 0. We're going to group. So the first two numbers have 2 and an x in common. That leaves us with 3x plus 2. The second ones are both negative, so I can take out a negative 1. 1's the only number I can divide into both of them. It's going to leave us with a positive 3x. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 is a positive 2. Equals 0 doesn't fit, but I'll write it in the next line. 3x plus 2 is in common. So we've got 3x plus 2 times the 2x from the first one minus 1 from the second piece equals 0. Now we're going to set each piece equal to 0. 3x plus 2 equals 0, and 2x minus 1 equals 0. If I solve each of these by first subtracting 2, so 3x equals negative 2, then divide by 3. So x equals negative 2/3 is one of my answers, and the other one I'll get from adding 1. So 2x equals 1, and then dividing by 2, which gives me x equals 1/2. So the two answers to this one are negative 2/3 and 1/2. Alright, that was the last example.